Kat sat alone on her couch, shoveling popcorn into her mouth. She stared at her TV, tied to the suspense of the movie. The sky darkened as the sun approached the horizon. Hidden behind the ocean trees, her house lay among. One lone tree stood in the center of her yard, visible through the living room window. A menacing presence filled the area yet to make itself known. Kat was glued to her movie, but still able to catch a glimpse of the black object aimed at her door. Thud! Kat jumped, startled by unexpected disturbance, spilling the popcorn. "What the hell?" she whimpered, approaching the door. The doorknob was cold in her hand. Her heart pounded in her chest. The hinges squeaked as the door creaked open. A rush of cold air washed Kat's face as her eyes scanned the dim yard. Nothing could be seen. Nothing made a sound. She slowly shut the door, then cleaned up the popcorn. She had just sat down when another black object hit her door with a louder thud than before. She looked at the tree in the yard, almost certain she saw what threw it. Kat sat there watching the tree, waiting for something to happen. "It's just some kids," she thought. "Nothing to worry about." She quickly made herself comfortable and began to turn on another movie. Minutes passed and another thud shattered the silence, shaking the door. Kat raced for the lock and quickly shut all the blinds. "They'll go away," she said, but grabbed a knife to calm her nerves and give her a sense of security. Tap, tap, tap. She heard light pecking on the living room window. The pecking grew louder, faster. She froze there in place, staring at the windows as the tapping became more profound. She was afraid to go investigate, but brave enough to stand her ground. Her home was small, and every hiding place would be too predictable. Besides, she didn't want to hide. She wanted to see it coming instead of cowering in fear. The tapping suddenly stopped. Kat slowly made her way to the door and put her back to it. A shadow eclipsed the light from the window atop the door. She stood just out of sight, holding her breath. With her back pressed against the wood, she could feel it knocking. 3 times softly. Kat could hear the galloping beat of her heart in her head. Her anxiety raised to the peak. 3 more knocks hit the door, harder this time. "Let me in," a hoarse whisper slipped through the door and into Kat's ears. She bit her lips, tears filling her eyes. Another 3 knocks erupted. Furious now, "Let me in," a now angry voice ordered. The knocking didn't cease. It grew harder as the voice grew louder. "Let me in! Let me in! Let me in!" The knocking grew so fierce it could have shattered the door. Tears leaked from her eyes. "What do I do?" she thought. "Should I open the door?" The knocking was more than she could bear. "I know you're there, Kat," it said. Her stomach twisted, her breath caught in her throat, and tears now streamed down her face. "Go away!" she shouted finally. "Let me in!" it screamed in response. "Leave me alone!" she cried. The voice and the knocking echoed in her head, making her more nauseous than before. Reaching for the lock hesitantly, she sucked up her tears and held her breath, unlocking the door and throwing it open. Nothing was there. The tree stood in the yard unmoving, no wind, nothing. She shut the door, shaking in fear. With the click of the lock, the room grew cold. Goosebumps covered her skin. "Thank you for letting me in," a voice whispered behind her. You awake with a high-pitched ringing in your ears. Gradually the sound becomes softer, like the humming from your refrigerator, and eventually it stops completely. Even after a peaceful night's rest, your eyes are not ready to open. But you find no reason not to open them. Your instincts urge you to keep them closed. The fluorescent lights blind you as your eyes are adjusting to the brightness. You are in a perfectly square white room with one door. One door. There is nothing strange about the door, yet you find it strange how the door seems so ordinary. You are now sitting up in your own bed in an unfamiliar room. You are not surprised. You don't know why, but you're not surprised. Your gut is telling you to go back to sleep, telling you not to be so curious, telling you not to. Too late. You notice an elderly man, possibly in his late 70s, sitting in the corner of the room. He's wearing a cheap brown suit and a pair of sunglasses. There are several pieces of cardboard signs resting on his lap. He opens his mouth and begins to speak, but he makes no sound. After a few moments, his lips stop moving and he grins. He grins. It reminds you of the smile of a mischievous little boy, stealing toys from his siblings. The man lifts up the first sign. It's written by hand. "Hello, my name is Michael. Do not be afraid of me. I will not hurt you." He continues to smile, showing his decaying teeth. He switches to the second sign. "I will grant you 3 wishes if you want them. Any information I reveal will count as a wish. I will not hurt you." He waits. You nod your head. He switches to the third sign. "If you use up all 3 wishes, I will give you another 3. But once you start to use the next set of wishes, you will have to give me something valuable. I will not hurt you." You immediately want to know, "Tell me why I'm in this room?" Before your lips begin to produce any sound, his mouth begins to move. You notice his crooked yellow teeth. It keeps moving as though he's talking, yet he makes no sound. You feel somewhat frustrated and cheated by the mute man. You get up and walk towards the plain white door. The man gets up slowly. Feeling for the corners of the bed, he crawls under it. It is obvious that he cannot see. You approach the door and turn the knob and open it. After opening the door, you find that the door is still closed, and you're holding a piece of cardboard with your own writing on it. You read it. "You have 1 wish left. Don't open the door." You check on the old man. He's still under the bed. He's grinning again. This time the grin stretches across his face. His decaying mouth begins to laugh, a soundless laugh. You start to realize that the situation is hopeless. You want to go home. You want to wake up and realize that it's all just a dream. You say to the old man, "I wish this was all just a dream and I won't remember it when I wake up." How stupid. You notice it only now. You are deaf. You'll never notice this, but you used all 4 wishes. You awaken with a stinging sensation in your eyes. Gradually the pain becomes less intense, like a wound starting to scab, and eventually it stops completely. Even after a peaceful night's rest, your eyes are not ready to open. Your instincts urge you to keep them closed, but you find no reason not to open them. Your gut is telling you to go back to sleep, telling you not to be so curious, telling you not to notice the old man with the rotting smile staring intently at you. The same dream again. I'm sitting at my desk, filling out my forms and completing my morning routine at the office. I lean over to answer the phone and I accidentally knock over my coffee mug. Carefully concocted caffeine and creamer streak across my freshly printed papers and onto my lap. Of course, I wore my brand new white slacks for the first day of summer. Stifling a yelp of surprise, dismay, and pain, I answer the phone. I giggle because suddenly the coffee stains are floating off my pants and papers into the clouds. As I deal with the first customer complaints of the day, The usual undertones of my office building filter through my subconscious. I hear a low thud or bang, followed by shouts. Probably that faulty printer at the end of the hallway, and Jerry yelling his usual string of swears as he tries to coerce it into working again. I take notes as the customer continues to explain the problem, but I don't understand him. It's some weird dream language. The customer speaks more and more urgently. I draw doodles, and when I look up, I see people running, and right behind them is a black shadow reaching out and tearing through them with no remorse. Before my dream mind can react, the shadow punches a hole through my chest, tearing my heart out. I look down and see the perfect red wound gushing blood onto my pants. I snap awake in my bed, gasping like a fish out of water. Always the same stupid dream, because I'm so nervous about this oncoming promotion. I'm sure I will be getting any day now. If they don't select me, I'm sure it'll crush me. The dream seems to go longer and longer and becomes more real every couple of nights. But hopefully they will stop after today, because today is the day that I'll find out if my boss has chosen me. I get ready for my day and I pick those white slacks for luck. I catch the train to work and start my day. The phone rings and I nudge my coffee cup, but I avoid spilling it this time. I chuckle. Deja vu. I answer the phone and begin my day. Almost unconsciously, I'm aware of a strange bang in the background and shouting. It doesn't click right away. I look up from my paperwork to see people running, and 3 figures dressed in black wielding large guns. They're mowing people down without remorse, without slowing down. One swings his weapon to me and fires into my chest. I laugh as I look down and see the hole. This same dream again. I'm going to wake up any second now. I must have fallen asleep on the train, on my way to work. Oh God, why am I not waking up? I sat alone in my office where it was quiet. Many days I'd clock in, shut my office door, and finish my work sheltered in the silent privacy of my office afforded. I'd been at my desk almost 2 hours. I stopped typing when I noticed how muted the hallway near my door had become. I could no longer hear talking between cubicles or shuffling feet of busy workers, or even phones loudly ringing across desks. The air seemed to have muffled as well, a quiet static that I felt on my neck. A strange unease echoed in the hairs now standing on my arms. My ears suddenly alert and attentive. I stood up and walked out, pulling the door behind me. It shut with a soft click. I stepped into the hallway and walked towards the front of the building. Every office I passed was empty, the hallways deserted. I treaded into another hallway, confused, tension in my legs as I continued towards the doors. Rather than process my confusion, I had one thought. Inexplicably, I need to leave. This urge came when I had stopped typing. An impulse telling me that something was off. The quiet, the empty offices, the realization that I was the only one left in the building, and yet the chilling idea that somehow I was not alone. In an adjacent hallway, a door opened, disrupting the silence, shuffling on its hinges. It closed again with a clap. I froze before deciding not to investigate. I walked quickly towards the entrance of the building. I heard footsteps, then perhaps 10 feet behind. I walked faster. I did not turn around. I felt fear. I focused my mind. I need to leave. I heard the footsteps faster than my own, following me as I began to run. The sun poured through the doors as I reached out and pushed the handles, exiting to the parking lot. I squinted my eyes as I glanced back towards the entrance of the building. I saw a man, a black silhouette, barely distinguishable through the doors, but his face peered at me, pale lips drawn tight beneath an ill-defined nose. His eyes dark, yet moving, swirling, two black orbs pressed into his head. I stifled my urge to scream, react to the terror I felt as he pressed his face against the glass, inspecting me. I remembered suddenly my urge to leave. I ran forward through an empty lot, towards the only vehicle still parked, my car. I closed in on my vehicle as I glanced around, back towards the doors. He stood, face against the glass, thin body outlined by the door, only watching. His gaze shook me. I stopped focusing. My mind churned, agitated by confusion, working to understand what this man was, or where my co-workers have gone, or why I had left my car keys inside my office.